Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Become the Spirit Dragon God and Fall in Love with the White Queen Part 1. Before we start, please go support MJONES99 for writing that awesome fanfic. Issei Hyoudou, a boy only known as a pervert to all while not being the brightest, is thrusted into an unknown world and with more questions than he does answers. Not only does he have a legendary dragon in his soul, he also has an ability to seal beings known as spirits, making their powers his own. Knowing this, Issei knows that his life of normalcy is over and a new one will begin for him. How will he adjust to this new life and what new challenges will come his way? Prologue: How it all began. I'm sorry, but you were a major threat to us. Shit, this hurts. What the fuck did I do to deserve this? Buck this hitch, I will kill her. I won't let my sisters get hurt because of her. Do not fret, hatchling, for you will be far stronger than ever before. Now let the aura of the dragon flow into you and rise once more as the Issei Hyoudou. Flashback, 6 years ago. In the small town of Kuo, there lived a family of 3 that were happy, despite a certain flaw. This family was the Hyoudous, and they consisted of the mom Miki, dad Goru, and their only child Issei, who was openly perverted. While the family was walking through the town, they all noticed a fire blazing and wondered what happened. Issei had taken a look at it in shock, but what he saw shocked him to his heart. A little girl was in that fire, crying her eyes out. He saw a little girl with red hair and eyes, what seemed to be black ribbons, and the tears Issei saw made his heart ache for the poor girl. But zero hesitation, perverseness be damned, Issei ran into the flames while his mother tried to call out for him. Miki. Issei, get back here. Issei didn't care and ran as hard as he could into the house, which was almost completely engulfed as he made it to the little girl. She opened her eyes a little to see the young brunette in front of her and almost passed out, causing her lips to meet Issei's, stunning the young boy. But unknown to both, the girl's clothes had faded away, leaving her exposed. Issei didn't know what happened and saw the poor girl's naked body, but his concern now was not that. He picked her up in a princess carry, walking to the exit despite the intense heat starting to get worse. Determined, he walked out of the burning home with the girl in his arms, his mom and dad relieved but at the same time worried. The firefighters on scene took the girl and Issei, walked them to the ambulance and sent them to the hospital to get checked out. Scene change, hospital. At the hospital, Issei was awake and looked over to the girl, who was now just waking up. She looked over to see Issei, who was just smiling softly at her. Not being hooked to any machines, the little girl had gotten off the hospital bed and clung herself onto Issei, crying in his chest. This caused Issei to blush a bit, but he smiled and hugged her gently, stroking her red hair softly. What surprised him was what the little girl called him, and it made his heart jump into his throat. Thank you, big B brother. That alone made Issei's heart swell up and he smiled warmly, tightening his hug on the girl, which seemed to have calmed her crying and made her smile gently. Issei was smiling softly, but he wanted to know her name before anything else. Issei. Can you tell me your name? Hey Katori. Issei. Katori. It's a cute name. This statement made Katori blush a little bit, but she tightened the hug with Issei and whispered into his chest. Katori. Baka brother. Issei chuckled lightly and held on to Katori as the doctor came in and was smiling at the sight, as well as Issei's parents. Both parents were smiling at the sight of Issei holding on to Katori in a protective hug, which melted everyone's hearts. The doctor then explained what was wrong with both kids, which both of them were fine and could be discharged. Issei kept Katori very close, acting as a brother to her, which made both parents agree to take her in as their own daughter. Katori was shocked to hear that, but she couldn't be any happier to be a part of a family. Flashback 1 over, flashback to 4 years ago. 2 years after taking Katori in as a little sister, Issei was asleep in his bed, which his room was now rid of his perverted collection and replaced it with a collection of different bands he enjoyed. A little bit later, Katori came into his room and started to jump on his bed in an effort to wake Issei up. Katori. Wake up, big brother, wake up. Katori kept bouncing, making Issei groan a bit and speak groggily. Issei. Katori, can you not? This made Katori have a sly smirk and bounce on Issei's stomach hard, waking him up instantly. Issei. Oh, okay, I'm up. Issei groaned and rolled off the bed, holding his stomach as it was now hurting a good bit from Katori jumping on it. She was smiling innocently as she was about to place a sucker in her mouth, but Issei took it from her and looked in her eyes. Issei. No suckers this early, not until after breakfast. Katori pouted and walked to the kitchen downstairs. Issei followed shortly after, this time in clothes he's comfortable in, which was a red shirt, leather jacket, black pants and shoes. Issei smiled at everyone, no longer being a pervert, but most people don't believe him. His parents and Katori were all eating breakfast, and knowing that Katori is definitely addicted to suckers, he always remembers to have a few on hand just in case. After bidding his family goodbye after breakfast and giving Katori a sucker for listening to him, Issei left to walk the town on his own. He wandered around and was looking for more merchandise or hopefully tickets to the next concert. While he was walking around, he looked down an alley and saw 4 guys hanging up on 2 girls that looked very similar to each other. The first one had cream skin with blonde hair and amethyst eyes, while the other girl had paler skin with white hair and yellow eyes. 2 of the guys had their hands on both girls' throats, pinning them against a wall, while the others were harassing the 2 of them. Issei, not one to tolerate this, walked down the alley towards them, catching the attention of one of the thugs. Thug 1. Oh. What's this? The others looked to Issei and dropped the 2 girls down, which left them paralyzed in fear and unable to move. As one of the thugs went to attack Issei, they didn't know that he is a 3-time MMA champion, so Issei knows how to kick ass. One of the thugs went for a punch, before Issei dodged and kneed him in the sternum hard. The other thug saw this and charged in, which Issei had no problem dealing with him, knocking all 4 thugs out. After that ordeal, Issei approached the 2 girls calmly, which the pale girl took a knife and pointed it at Issei, afraid for her life as the blonde girl closed her eyes and looked away. Stay back D, don't get see closer. Issei noticed the 2 girls were terrified out of their minds, as he just got down and offered a warm smile to them, reaching both hands out to them. The pale girl was a little stunned, as the blonde looked on in a bit of surprise. In that moment, both girls were still weary of Issei, but they hesitantly took his hand, one each. After standing both girls up, he looked at them softly and spoke gently. Issei. You 2 are safe now, they won't hurt you again. Those calming words were enough for the 2 of them to feel a little better, but both of them had their legs give out from the intense fear and adrenaline that was in their bodies. Issei held them up and knew he had to carry them. A thought did cross his mind as he wanted to know before being certain. Issei. I'm sorry if I sound rude, but where are your parents at? At the mention of their parents, both girls looked down and were about to cry, making Issei realize that their parents are dead. He then looked at the 2 of them and knew what had to happen. Issei. Look at me you 2. Both girls looked up, tear stains on their cheeks as they looked at Issei. Issei. How about you 2 live with my family? I promise you 2 will be taken care of greatly. The girls were shocked that Issei made such a suggestion and looked at each other for a moment. Issei was about to speak again until the blonde girl began to hug him tightly, tears starting to flow once more, but not from fear, rather happiness. She held onto Issei tightly, happy that she could have a new home. Issei looked at the other girl, seeing that she was also uneasy, gently raised his other arm up and offered a smile to her. The pale girl looked shocked, and in that moment, she felt herself being hugged by Issei, shocked by the comfort. Unable to hold back, she started to hold onto Issei for dear life, crying again as she found someone who would truly care for her. Both girls then held onto Issei, afraid to let him go, but happy as one of them spoke up. Thank you big brother. Issei felt his heart grip a little as he soon heard the other girl speak. You're the best big bro. Issei was shocked that both girls called him big brother as he knew this was going to be a doozy to explain. But he just smiled and held the 2 of them tighter as Issei then took both of their hands and realized something. Both of them had their clothes torn up at the chest. He then took off his leather jacket and t-shirt, leaving a black tank top on as Issei handed the girls the jacket and shirt. The 2 girls didn't understand at first until they saw their own shirts ripped and quickly took the shirt and jacket from Issei, making them relieved. After that, Issei took the 2 of them to his car, where he knows he may be screwed. Scene change, Hyoudou home. Sitting on the couch in front of his parents, Issei began to explain why he brought the 2 girls home. Issei. And that's about it. Both girls, who were nervous, said their names, which were Jean and Jalter Dark. Katori eyed the pair as they felt a little bit intimidated, which made Issei look at Katori a bit seriously. Issei. Katori, you're making them uncomfortable. Katori heard it and eased up, while the parents were talking amongst themselves. After a few more minutes, both Mickey and Goru came back and were smiling. Mickey. We have talked, and we have decided. Goru. We welcome you 2 into the family as our daughters. Both Jean and Jalter were shocked and wide-eyed, not believing that they're now in a loving family. Issei looked at them and just nodded with a smile as both parents took a seat next to the duo, with Jean hugging Mickey tightly as she cried while Jalter held onto Goru, tears flowing freely. Issei smiled as he now had 2 more sisters to protect, and Katori had an amused grin. It was now a family of 6, and Issei was happy to have 3 little sisters to look after, and he knows it's going to be a pain when it comes to keeping creeps away. But in his eyes, making sure all of his sisters are okay is worth it for Issei. Flashbacks over. Issei was on his knees, crawling to the bench and laying down right in front of it, breathing heavily as he was injured severely from his date, but unknown to him, a flame was burning on his chest, which seemed to be healing Issei. Unknown to him, 2 individuals were watching as one was about to make a move. I'm sorry, Issei, I didn't want to meet you in such circumstances. This young boy has potential, but can he truly keep up? So this is my host. I see he has much more potential than I thought, but I refuse to let the devils take him in. In a blinding red light, Issei had disappeared, leaving the two that were watching him a bit stunned. But one of them, a young lady with red and blue heterochromatic eyes and wearing a white military outfit, had a teasing smirk on her face, licking her lips a little bit. I must say that he's a real charmer. I want him to seal me, but how much can he handle? The other girl, one with red hair, blue eyes, wore an academy outfit, looked on in disbelief to where Issei was laying before he disappeared. That power, could it possibly be that? The two girls had disappeared into their own portals, one of them with a cheeky yet seductive smirk and the other to her base, looking to see what had happened. Chapter 1 First Day, Encounter the Queen. Before Issei's disappearance. Issei was asleep in bed, dreaming about meeting his favorite band. As he slept, Katori burst into his room and began jumping on his bed, while Jean and Jalter watched with amused grins. Katori. Wake up, lazy bones. Issei was not thrilled as he put the blanket over his head, wanting to sleep some more, until Katori then jumped on his stomach hard, making the young lad wake up. Issei. Ow, why do you always do this to me? Jean was giggling to herself while Jalter was on the floor laughing her ass off at Issei's expense. Katori got off of his bed as Issei rolled and hit the ground holding his stomach. He soon slowly got up, catching his breath a bit at how hard Katori jumped on him. Issei. Even after so many years, you still jump on me, huh? Katori only flashed a cheeky grin at Issei as he saw both Jean and Jalter laughing, making him groan a bit. Issei. Oh ha ha, very funny you two. Issei shook his head, but he couldn't stay upset at his sisters because it's their first day of school. Katori was in middle school while Jean, Jalter and Issei all went to Kuo Academy, wearing the standard academy uniforms, although Issei didn't wear the normal jacket but opted for his leather one. After all of them came downstairs, the parents saw them all in their uniforms, though were a bit surprised that Issei wasn't wearing the jacket he was issued. Issei. Before you say it, I did try it on, it was too itchy for me and made me very uncomfortable. Both parents nodded and understood what Issei meant by it, as it was still cool enough for a leather jacket, and Issei had also gotten his sister some leggings to wear for the cooler weather. Soon, the four of them bid goodbye to their parents after breakfast, and they all got in Issei's car, which was a Dodge Charger SRT. After starting it, he drove to the middle school to drop off Katori, and as he drove, the news played on the radio. Radio. This is breaking news. Another space quake has been recorded. It was a minor one with 0 injuries, but the number of quakes is increasing. Please be cautious when you are out and about and take shelter whenever one occurs. This caught all of their attention, none more so than Katori. Issei was a bit amused as he always wondered what a space quake would feel like. He soon arrived at the middle school to drop off Katori and he spoke to her before she left. Issei. Remember Katori, if anything happens I'm always one call away. Katori. Okay lazy bones. Issei just slumped down on his steering wheel, causing his sisters to laugh again. Issei. Very funny. Katori only just smiled at him, then hugged him tightly for a moment before heading inside. Jean. Looks like we'll also have to call you that. Issei. Not you two as well. Jalter. What? It's fitting, seeing how often you're asleep. Issei just groaned as he drove Jean and Jalter to Kuo Academy, ready for their first day. Upon arrival, every student that was there saw the car and wondered who owned it. Random Girl 1. Who owns that car? Random Girl 2. I don't know, but I hope it's a hunk. Random Boy 1. I need that car now. Random Boy 2. I agree, maybe then we'll get some chicks. The doors opened up to reveal Jean and Jalter as the boys all looked at them with hearts in their eyes and a dangerous amount of lust. The driver door opened and out of it came Issei, which made every girl drop their smiles and glare at him, which did not affect the boy at all. As the glares were all towards Issei, Jean and Jalter were given a lot of compliments and warnings by the girls about Issei, while the boys said some very perverse things towards the two, making the dark sisters very uncomfortable and stay closer to Issei. The trio then made it to class as the teacher told both Jean and Jalter to wait outside a bit as Issei went in and took his normal seat, which had empty chairs on his left and in front of him, knowing who's taking each one. Teacher. Everyone immediately went into their seats after seeing how the teacher made his entrance and wondered if it was legal to bring his motorcycle inside. Teacher. Alright, sit down and shut up, we got 2 new students here, so behave. Come inside. Once he said that, Jean and Jalter came into the room and everyone was amazed and lusting at their beauty, which irked Issei a good bit. Both sisters introduced themselves and the teacher nodded. Teacher. Alright, now for some questions. And for the love of God, keep them decent. The teacher pointed at one student who had brown hair and pigtails and hazel eyes. Her name was Murayama. Murayama. Where are you two originally from? Jean. Both of us came from France. The teacher then pointed to another student, another girl with short pink hair and pink eyes. This girl is named Caddis. Caddis. Are you two actually twins? Jean Jolter. Yes, we are. That made everyone a bit surprised, but nonetheless smiled as the teacher pointed to a boy that had black hair, wore glasses, and seemed a bit average. This was Motohama, one of the perverts of the school. Motohama. I'm wondering if either of you two want to go on a date with me. That got Motohama a knife in his desk, scaring the pervert and shocking everyone as they looked to Issei, who was seething as he glared at Motohama. Issei. Try it and you're dead. Issei was not in the greatest mood after hearing Motohama try to ask his sisters out, which the teacher was not caring. He's one of the only few in the entire school that knew Issei was not a pervert, and he saw how protective of Jean and Jolter he is. Teacher. That's enough of that, take your seats near Issei. Jean and Jolter went to sit close to Issei, with Jean in front and Jolter next to him. Issei only groaned internally as he knew it would be an extremely long year, considering how often the girls tried to accuse him of being a pervert. Time skip, school roof. Issei was alone on the rooftop, getting some peace and quiet as he let his sisters talk to their new friends. As he closed his eyes to get a little extra sleep, right as he was about to tune the world out with music, a voice made themselves known. Ara, Ara. Issei's eyes immediately shot open, and what he saw was something that never seemed to catch him by surprise. It was a beautiful young girl in white, with red and blue heterochromatic eyes, and had a cheeky smirk on her face. Issei. Wah. The girl only giggled and got much closer to Issei, kneeling down and cupping a hand under his chin, looking into his eyes deeply. Oh, you're much cuter up close. Issei was blushing a good bit and his mind was racing 1,000 miles per hour. Several questions was in his head and he needed answers, but her voice, though a bit teasing, was velvet to his ears. I know more about you than you realize, Issei Hyoudou. I've watched you grow for quite a while. Issei was now panicking internally as he didn't know who the girl even was or how she knew him. It also freaked him out that this unknown girl was watching him for some time, but he doesn't know for how long. The girl only giggled and spoke again. You're wondering who I am, just call me White Queen. White Queen then gets very close and whispered into Issei's ear very softly. White Queen. Darling. That made Issei turn red in a heartbeat, and even more so when White Queen gave Issei a kiss on the cheek, giving a teasing smirk before disappearing without causing the space quake alarm to go off. Issei. Did the just what the buck? Issei touched the cheek that White Queen kissed, and only one thought was in his mind, which made him smile a bit. Issei. So I get a kiss from a girl, this is nice. After that, the bell rings for class to start soon, which has Issei return to the room and try to focus on the rest of the day, but the encounter with White Queen left him with several questions. Questions that he's going to find out much sooner rather than later. Time skip, after school. Issei was waiting by his car for both Jean and Jolter, and he was still thinking about what happened. After a while, he saw both Jean and Jolter approaching, but he was a bit surprised as both of them ran up and clung onto him, both starting to have tears in their eyes. Issei did not like that sight, and he had to know. Issei. What happened, you two? Jolter only tightened her grip on Issei's shirt, burying her face in his chest, as Jean tried to speak, though her voice was quivering a little bit. Jean. We were PPP. Issei was wondering what Jean was about to say, but once he looked up, he saw two guys with a camera and stupid grins on their faces. He knew immediately that both of his sisters were peeked on, and their photos of them changing was taken. Issei unlocked his car and opened the doors for Jean and Jolter as he spoke in a very comforting tone to them, but inside he was seething. Issei. Stay in here, girls, I'll go take care of those jack wagons. He shut and locked his doors to the car, making sure nobody tried to steal his car as Issei made his way to the two boys with dumb grins. Issei knew Motohama, but the other one, who was bald and had larger ears, also had a grin that made him look dumb. The two of them were busy as the kendo team surrounded the two, which they looked up and paled a little bit. Before anyone could say anything, Issei's voice was heard from a bit back, and he was pissed. Issei. You asswhips are bucking dead. Issei's voice made the two perverts run for their lives, but Issei was faster, catching both of them very quickly and pinning them down, knocking out Motohama and putting Mitsuda in a Kimura lock, ready to break his arm as he was not thrilled. As the kendo team watched on with shock and near horror, two individuals made themselves known. One of them boasted black bob cut hair, violet eyes, and pink glasses, while the other had long black hair, heterochromatic brown and violet eyes, and blue glasses. These two were the student council president and vice president, Sona Shitori and Tsubaki Shinra. Sona saw Issei about to break one of the pervert's arms and called out in an authoritative tone. Sona. Hyoudou. Issei glared at Sona and Tsubaki, and both girls thought for a split second they saw a set of green eyes staring a hole through them. That caught their attention, but before anything else, Issei let go of Mitsuda's arm, who was passed out from fear by Issei. He then took a deep breath and spoke in a gritted tone, but still his rage was evident. Issei. I'm sorry, but these two had it coming. They were about to speak until Issei handed the camera to Tsubaki, who took it and went through the photos, making her and Sona more disgusted. One photo got her and Sona's attention, and they wondered what it was. Issei. That photo is of my sisters getting changed, the reason I'm so pissed off with these hickless twats. The kendo team were shocked, as they knew now that Issei is not a pervert, but a very protective brother that will do anything to make sure his sisters are safe. Sona. Well, I don't condone how you handled it, I'll let it slide this one time, next time will be detention. Is that clear, Hyoudou? Issei. Sure, whatever you say. Tsubaki was about to say it, but understood the look Sona gave her, which said save it for later. Before Issei left for his car, he also shocked Sona a little with a simple question. Issei. If it's not too much, could you tell Momo I said hi? Sona was a little surprised, but did not, and Issei left, not so angry anymore as Sona and the other girls that watched him leave realized one thing. Issei is extremely dangerous when it comes to his sisters, and he will make sure those two are taken care of and safe. Even if it means risking expulsion or suspension, Issei is not one to be taken lightly. White Queen watched Issei deal with the two perverts from a distance, and her eyes seemed to have hearts in them, and her grin seductive. White Queen. I made the right choice, he will be mine, and nobody will get in my way. She then vanished to keep an eye on Issei more, waiting for the opportunity to take him as her only true plaything, but unknown to her, she may encounter an extremely deadly dragon that won't be silent. Chapter 2 Fighting Fallen, a truth revealed. After destroying the two perverts for taking pictures of his sisters and deleting them, Issei went back to his car and started driving Jean and Jalter home. He knew his sisters were more scared, and despite Jalter being a bit cold, she still clung onto him like a scared little kid. Issei looked back at the two and spoke in a gentle and warm tone. Issei. Girls, I'm not mad at you two. If anything, I'm glad that you two had told me of what happened. Both Jean and Jalter didn't say anything, but showed sincere and appreciative smiles to their brother. After getting home and going inside, Issei told the parents of what happened and wondered where Katori went. Nikki. Oh, Katori is having an after-school club that she's going to. Issei. Oh, okay. She could have told me, but it's whatever. Once Issei knew where Katori was, he then went to his car to go pick her up, but not before getting a kiss on his cheeks from Jean and Jalter, who ran off quickly to their rooms. Issei just smiled and went to his car, driving to the middle school to pick up Katori. After he arrived, he waited for a bit, but what had happened earlier was still on his mind. Issei. That girl, she called herself White Queen, who is she, really? And why did she call me darling? Issei had a lot of questions on what happened earlier and was still surprised that the mystery girl that spoke to him kissed his cheek. After what seemed like a few minutes feeling like hours, Katori came out and was with a few of her friends. She turned and noticed Issei waiting for her, which she started walking to the car, and her friends followed to see who drove the car. Upon opening the door, Katori got in the front passenger seat, and her friends saw Issei and were stunned, seeing the perverted beast, as he was called by the middle schoolers, being Katori's older brother. Issei. Seriously, will you drop that title? God, why do you hate me so much? Katori only shook her head, and once the door was closed and Issei started driving, he saw that Katori had a couple of tears threatening to fall. This put Issei on high alert, and he had to know. Issei. Katori, what happened? Katori didn't say much, but the few words she did say made Issei know it will be a long night. Katori. Can we please head to the park? Issei didn't say anything, but nodded and drove to the park, letting the family know he'll be out with Katori for a bit. After parking and stepping out, Katori also got out and clung herself onto Issei, shaking like a leaf a little bit and her grip like iron. This made Issei worried, and he held onto Katori and let her cry in his arms. After a couple of moments, he needed to know. Issei. Sis, what happened? Katori. I was harassed. This made Issei extremely pissed off, as he held onto Katori a little tighter. He also whispered to her in a soothing and warm tone. Issei. Don't worry, your big brother will take care of it. Katori nodded silently as she only clung onto Issei, holding him like he was her lifeline. Issei softly caressed her hair, hoping to help Katori calm down, and eventually she did. After calming her down, he drove her to the closest drive-thru and bought food for her and himself, while also getting something for everyone else. Upon arriving home, Katori stayed very close to Issei, despite seeing how she normally acted at home around him. Once they're inside, Issei lets Katori be with the parents, while he runs up to drop Jean and Jalter some food as well. Both of them were happy to get something and thanked Issei, and after he ate, Issei decided to head back to the park to be alone for a bit, but did let his family know. He soon arrived at the park and started walking through it, eventually leading to the fountain as he stared at his reflection. Issei. Shit, all three of my sisters are dealing with jackasses, guess I need to get back into the octagon soon. The only place you'll be is in the grave. Issei was shocked as he looked up at the sky, seeing it change from the auburn orange to violet, as it looked like something that could be seen while tripping on acid. He quickly turned around to see a man that looked to be in his 40s, with black hair, a dark trench coat, a fedora, and what made Issei shocked the most was the two black wings that came out of his back. So this is the boy I must kill. Issei was now freaking out, as the word kill gave him serious chills. But was snapped out of his stupor as a spear made of light was hurtling his way. Issei barely managed to evade the spear, but the sudden charge by the man with wings diverted his attention, and he fell back hard. Seeing as there's no way out, Issei started to fight back using the MMA skills he had, holding his own despite the pain. Managing to hold off, Issei was now bruised and beaten, but was not down for the count. Fascinating, it seems you can hold your own. I'm thoroughly impressed, but to think you had a sacred gear, how disappointing, honestly. As Issei was barely able to stand, another spear of light was making its way straight for Issei. Knowing he couldn't dodge in time, he braced for the spear to hit him, but a gunshot rang out and the spear shattered. Opening his eyes, in front of him was the girl he saw earlier, White Queen. Her usual smirk and mischievous look was replaced with an extremely serious and angered expression. White Queen. I will make you regret hurting my darling, fallen one. Issei noticed the tone of her voice was not playful and aimed a flintlock pistol at the fallen one. She looked back to Issei, who was gripping his stomach in pain, and spoke sincerely to him. White Queen. You did well on your own, darling, but let me handle this poor excuse of a crow. After that statement, she charged at the fallen one, firing her pistol and using a saber to fight him. Issei watched in awe at how White Queen moved against the man with wings, as he had fallen back and moved himself towards the bench to lean against it. Unfortunately for him, that would be the least of his worries, as a strange glow began to emanate from him. Issei. What the buck? Issei was very confused on why he was glowing red, but a voice made itself known in his head. Do not worry, hatchling, you are safe with me. I will train you to become stronger, better, and most of all more capable of protecting those closest to you. Get ready, Issei Hyoudou, for now you will rise as the new Red Dragon Emperor, the Seker Yuete. The voice had made its point clear to Issei, who was still confused as his glow got brighter. After dealing with the fallen one, White Queen saw Issei glowing red and ran over to him, kneeling down and holding on to him while looking a bit scared. White Queen. Darling. Issei looked up and met her eyes, which were on the verge of tears, but Issei wiped them with his thumb gently and offered an apologetic smile before the red light was nearly blinding everyone in a small radius. Where Issei once sat was no more, and White Queen was in a bit of a panic and could not believe that Issei had just vanished. Tears started to form once again, and she couldn't believe what had happened. White Queen tried to calm down, but she obviously didn't feel great as Issei just vanished without a trace. She then stood up and spoke through her tears before vanishing to wherever she hides out. White Queen. Please come back, darling. Scene change, unknown place. Issei was still clutching his stomach as he felt a bit nauseous and still in pain. He looked around and was shocked that he wasn't in the park at Kuo anymore, but in a pitch-black void somewhere unknown. Issei. What the hell, where am I? So you are my new host, huh? Issei looked around for the voice, not sure where it came from, until a massive wall of fire appeared, and from it came a massive red dragon with green eyes and yellow accents. This is the red dragon known as Dreg. Dreg. Issei Hyoudou, I have watched you grow from a young boy to a hard-hitting and very tender young man. You have earned my respect, but I have bad news, you are sadly dying from the injuries you sustained. This made Issei shocked, as he didn't expect that the fight was going to kill him, but it was what Dreg said next that shocked him to the core. Dreg. However, you also possess another unique ability that is far beyond anyone's comprehension. You have the ability to deal spirits. This not only shocked Issei, but made him extremely confused, as he wasn't sure what a spirit even was. Issei. Spirits. What? Dreg. Spirits are beings that are powerful enough to cause problems for people and other beings alike, myself included. Issei. Okay, I think I get it now, but the girl I had seen earlier in white. Dreg. That girl is a spirit, and it appears she had taken a serious interest in you. Issei was blushing a bit as he felt something in his heart for White Queen, but wasn't sure if he was ready to make a move on her. Dreg. I'm certain she is not the only one that will be interested in you. Other creatures like devils, angels, gods, fallen angels, yokai, and the such will as well. And yes, they all exist. Now Issei's brain was fried as he was shocked from the sudden information overload that Dreg had given him. Dreg saw the look on Issei's face and took the time to explain everything to him, making Issei understand a lot better, but one question had to arise. Issei. Could you tell me if I had already sealed any spirits? Greg. Yes, you sealed the spirit of Ifrit, granting you the angel camel. You are going to be shocked by who it came from, your own little sister, Katori. Issei's eyes widened so fast that he couldn't even begin to understand. He never knew Katori was a spirit, but at the same time he realized that there was a flame that was on him anytime he got stabbed or an open wound was on him. Issei wondered if it was the angel at work. Issei. So those flames I've seen on me, were those the flames from Camel? Greg. Yes, those were its flames, they were healing you in order to keep you alive. Issei nodded and wondered what other spirits could be out there. Issei. So these spirits, how do I seal them? I don't know how unless I wait. His eyes widened a lot and a severe blush appeared on his face, causing Issei to cover his mouth and feel stupid for asking. Greg only laughed at that predicament and knew that Issei should be back at his parents' place soon. Greg. It's time for you to return, however, you will be part dragon, but still keep your human half. Also, your sacred gear will awaken, which is the boosted gear. Good luck on your journey, Issei Hyoudou, because I will be with you every step of the way. Soon, Issei was wrapped in a blinding light and disappeared from the void of flames and vanished from Drake's sight. Scene change, Kuo Park. After a few hours, White Queen was back at the park after having time to calm herself down, seeing Issei vanish like that. White Queen. Darling, please come back. As she was hoping for, a red light blinded her and there was a figure standing from it. Once the light died down, White Queen looked at the individual and she couldn't believe who came back. It was none other than Issei Hyoudou. White Queen. I don't believe it. Issei opened his eyes and laid them on White Queen, who was still in disbelief as she slowly got up and approached Issei, not sure if he was real or if it was just an illusion. He saw this and pulled her into a tight yet gentle hug, shocking the young girl. Issei. I'm real and I'm back. White Queen couldn't take it and she just started bawling in Issei's arms, holding onto him tightly, scared to let him go. Issei only smiled and held onto her, removing her cap and gently stroking her hair, trying to calm the crying spirit down. Issei. I'm right here, I'm not going anywhere now. White Queen just nodded and pulled away a bit, not letting go of Issei as she looked into his eyes, a smile gracing her lips. The smile was not one of playful seduction or any cheekiness. It was one that was genuine and pure, making Issei also smile at her. Issei held onto her and saw that he needed to head home for tomorrow, but before he could, White Queen looked to Issei and her voice was now shy, not playful as when they first met. White Queen. Can you take me to your place? Issei was shocked that a girl wanted to come to his home, let alone one as beautiful as her. He was internally thrilled, but also a bit nervous about how he could introduce her to the family. White Queen saw the predicament Issei was in, but before she could say anything, she felt her hand getting pulled by Issei as they walked to his car. She was a bit flustered, but at the same time happy that Issei had accepted it regardless. The two of them then went to Issei's home, where he told his parents that he was bringing a guest over, letting them be prepared. Issei also was concerned on how his parents will react, especially his sisters, knowing how clingy they can be around him when necessary. White Queen was also nervous about meeting the family and how they'll react to her. All in all, both were nervous and wondered how this interaction was going to go. Chapter 3 Talk, True Identify and Sealed. Scene change, Hyoudou home. Issei pulled into the driveway of his home with White Queen in the passenger seat. He was a bit of a nervous wreck internally because this is the first time that he's brought a girl home that the parents haven't made their daughter. As he was nervously trying to calm down, White Queen put a gentle hand on his shoulder and looked at him with a soft look. Her tone was also soft, letting Issei know she's there with him. White Queen. Everything will be okay, I trust you. Issei was shocked to hear that White Queen had trusted him, but he also knew that he couldn't just keep calling her that forever. He tried to think of a name that he could call her, but White Queen spoke up. White Queen. Don't worry, I will tell them my real name. Just promise you'll be with me after all of it is over. Issei looked in her eyes and saw that she was afraid of being left alone, and he gave a warm smile towards White Queen. Issei. I'm not leaving you, not now, not ever. White Queen felt her heartbeat a bit faster and her face was heating up a little as well. Once she felt it, that was when she knew what it was. She fell in love with Issei. A moment later, she and Issei both stepped out of his car and White Queen took Issei's hand with hers, staying close to him. This action surprised Issei, but he did not pull away and instead brought her closer. Issei soon opened his door and was greeted by his parents, who were shocked at the appearance of White Queen, not believing how Issei could be with an extremely beautiful girl. Goro was aware of how serious Issei was when he texted about leaving his sisters in their rooms for the time being and had done so before Issei arrived home with his guest. He and Mickey sat down on the couch, with Issei and White Queen on the other one, nervous on how it's going to go. Both parents' tones were a bit serious, but weren't demanding or harsh. Mickey. Issei, we are not surprised that another girl has been brought into our home, but we can't take another daughter as we already have 3. White Queen was blushing hard at that, but Issei gently squeezed her hand to reassure her as his father spoke. Boru. Before we go on, can we know her name? Issei was going to speak, but it was White Queen who had spoken, and her voice to the parents was one of unequal tenderness. White Queen. My name is Sawayamuchi. It's a pleasure to meet you both. Both parents were shocked at how tender and soft White Queen sounded, hearing her name to be Sawayamuchi. Issei wanted to ask her about it, but knew to stay quiet for now and save it for now. Mickey looked at White Queen and spoke up. Mickey. Well, Sawa, we must ask about how you know our son. It's not often a girl truly loves him due to the rumors about him. White Queen internally was seething about the rumors on Issei since she had watched him for quite some time. She was calmed by Issei's touch as she spoke tenderly. White Queen. I honestly have always felt myself being pulled towards your son. I do not believe in those rumors, and I honestly didn't know how to tell him without being so nervous or messing it up. She spoke that as the hand she held Issei's own with was now caressing his cheek as Issei was starting to turn red at that. Goru smiled warmly at the scene in front of him while Mickey was taking in every word White Queen had said. After a few moments, Mickey smiled and spoke warmly to her and Issei. Mickey. I'm glad you don't believe the rumors and are in love with my son, but… She was quiet for a moment, White Queen now starting to fear what she was going to say as Mickey continued on. Mickey. Please don't ever leave him, I've seen his heart get broken so many times I don't know if I could keep it up like this. White Queen was curious on what she meant as Mickey spoke more. Mickey. Every time I've seen Issei talk to a girl that he felt something for she would always slap him in the face without even hearing him out, and the look on Issei's face every day, it broke my heart as well. Mickey was now on the verge of tears as Goru was doing his best to comfort his wife. White Queen now understood what Mickey meant by her earlier phrase, as she now knew that Issei had been heartbroken a lot. She knew that leaving him would possibly lead to devastating consequences as she spoke up and had found the resolve to keep speaking. White Queen. I promise that I will never, for any reason I will never leave your son. As White Queen was speaking, she wrapped her arms around Issei's neck, laying her head along his shoulder as she kept talking. This made Issei blush a little, but the smile was genuine and warm as White Queen kept speaking. White Queen. He means too much to me, I really don't ever want to leave him, he truly is the only one that will ever have my heart and I wouldn't want it any other way. White Queen held onto Issei a bit tightly as he whispered into her ear tenderly, placing one of his arms around her waist softly. Issei. Thank you, I don't want you to leave. White Queen now started to blush a little as her smile had grown more as both Goru and Mickey watched the scene with soft smiles and tender looks. They looked at each other and nodded on having her date Issei. Goru. Sawa, look at us. White Queen looked to the parents as she saw the smiles on both of them as they kept speaking. Mickey. After hearing you talk about our son so highly, we agreed that we approve of you being with him, please take care of him and he'll always care for you no matter what. White Queen was ecstatic that she could stay with Issei and tightened her hug on him, cracking a couple of bones as Issei was now starting to struggle breathing. Issei. Ow, I can't breathe. White Queen saw this and eased her hold as Issei inhaled a good chunk of air and was breathing a bit heavily. Issei. Geez, you're strong. Both Mickey and Goru laughed at how their son almost got crunched by White Queen as they left for their bedroom. Issei and White Queen both went to his bedroom and once the door locked, she started holding Issei tighter, burying her face into his shoulder. He slowly started stroking her hair gently, doing his best to calm the spirit down as he spoke in a tender tone. Issei. You're home now, I'm always here, no matter what. White Queen then looked up to Issei and dragged him to the balcony where the night sky shined the brightest between the two. It was also that moment that she couldn't take it anymore and kissed Issei, a soft glow around her body as her astral dress started to disappear while she held onto Issei. After separating from the kiss, she looked Issei in the eyes and spoke very softly, her tone barely audible. White Queen, thank you, Issei. She nearly fell asleep right in his arms as her body went limp and Issei kept her up. He just smiled and picked up White Queen and carried her to his bed, laying her down and laying next to her. Right after he laid down, White Queen rolled herself on top of Issei, propping herself up with her hands as her eyes gently glistened in the night, giving her a softer look in the moonlight. Issei smiled softly as he put a soft hand on her cheek, gently caressing it as he spoke very quietly. Issei. Sawa. White Queen only kept smiling and closed her eyes gently, enjoying the gentle caress of Issei's hand on her cheek and hearing him call her by her true name. She gently lowered herself on top of Issei, enjoying the gentle caress of his hand as she spoke in a quiet tone. White Queen. Darling. She cooed quietly as she got extremely comfortable in his embrace. Soon after, White Queen fell asleep, a gentle smile on her face as she buried herself in Issei's arms. Issei just smiled warmly and held on to her, soon a peaceful slumber taking him over. Unknown to either, his door was slightly opened and somebody had peeked into the room. Outside Issei's room. Outside his room, Katori got thirsty and went to get some water. Passing Issei's room, she saw the door was slightly ajar and she took a peek inside. What she saw was something that not only shocked her, but she knew what the other girl in the room was. Katori. Another spirit. Katori quickly left for her room and in a hidden comms device, she made a call with some urgency. Come in. Katori. We've got a problem, it's not Nightmare, but someone similar. That's interesting, who? Katori. Queen. The voice on the other side was shocked and wasn't sure how to take it as it spoke to Katori. Keep an eye on her, I'm not sure what her goals are, but don't let her do what she wants. Katori. Understood, however, that brings another problem, for me personally. What is it? Katori. It involves my brother, she's with him. Is she harming him at all? Katori. Not that I've seen, but I think she's been sealed. What? How? Katori. I think it's thanks to my brother, I don't know how, but she had truly fallen for him. The voice on the other end was stunned silent as it was now stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, Queen was around and was a very dangerous spirit. But on the flip side, she wasn't harming any innocent people, and if it was true, they needed to understand what was happening right now. You need to tell him the truth. Katori was flabbergasted as she didn't want to put Issei in any unnecessary danger as she almost flipped her lid. Katori. Are you serious? Why would you do that? It's either that or the world could be in grave danger. I trust you to make the right call, Katori. The call ended as Katori had to now make the toughest decision of her life. She didn't want to tell Issei about the spirits, but she knew that if he didn't know, she could put everyone else in mortal danger. Katori took a deep breath and went to her brother's room, quietly entered, and stood by his bedside. She was scared of how Issei would react, but before she could say anything, Issei slightly opened his eyes to see Katori sitting by his bed. Issei. Katori, what are you doing here? Katori. I'm sorry, but there's something I need to tell you. It brings her into this. Issei looked at the sleeping White Queen, who was still asleep with a peaceful smile on her face, which brought Issei to smile himself, but it soon dropped as he looked at Katori. Issei. What is it, little sis? Katori blushed and wanted to punch Issei, but she also didn't want to wake up White Queen by accident as she spoke. Katori. Shut up, idiot, it's time you know the truth about spirits. Issei looked at her, and what he said next shocked her to no end. Issei. I'm well aware of them. Katori was stupefied at how Issei already knew and she wanted to ask, but the tired voice of White Queen interrupted them. White Queen. Darling, please turn the lights off. As White Queen opened her eyes slightly, they adjusted to see Katori clearly as she was about to attack Katori, only for Issei to hold her back. He just whispered into White Queen's ear to try and calm her down. Issei. It's okay, she's not going to hurt you. The tight embrace and soothing voice of Issei made White Queen calm down greatly as she held onto Issei, not letting him go. She spoke with a bit of venom in her voice towards Katori. White Queen. Why are you here, little girl? Issei. Sawa, just calm down, okay? Issei spoke tenderly to White Queen as she took a couple of deep breaths and eased up a bit as Issei decided to speak. Issei. I already know of the spirits thanks to another being in me. This caught both Katori and White Queen off guard as a green gem appeared on Issei's hand and spoke, freaking both girls out. It was Dreg. Dreg. Greetings, young ladies. Both of the girls almost screamed but didn't want to wake up the whole house as White Queen gripped Issei tighter and Katori almost fell down. Issei just shook his head at Dreg. Issei. Way to scare them, Dreg. Dreg. Apologies for that, but do understand that I already informed Issei of everything, including the spirits. This made both girls relax visibly and Dreg continued on. Dreg. That being said, do know that I wish no harm on anyone and I only want what's best for my partner. Both girls also calmed down as Issei spoke next. Issei. That being said, I'm already aware of the spirits. But what I wanted to know is why you didn't tell me about it, Katori. Katori looked down a bit ashamed, but she spoke up. Katori. I just didn't want you to be put in any unnecessary danger, I'm sorry. Katori looked down and Issei knew that as a sign that she needed a brother. He let go of White Queen and hugged his sister, who gripped onto his shirt tightly, tears starting to fall from her eyes. White Queen saw this and didn't say a word, knowing now that Katori was another girl that needed Issei more than ever as she heard him speak. Issei. It's okay, little sis, I'm not mad at you. Katori didn't say anything and just held on to Issei, hearing his words as she started to calm down a good bit. She looked to Issei and saw him smiling at her, which caused Katori to have a small one as well. Issei. Everything will be okay, sis, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. Tori just nodded as Issei wiped her tears away, making the youngest girl calm down. She looked to White Queen and spoke in a bit of an apologetic tone. Tori. Sorry for my assumption on you earlier. White Queen. No harm done, and I'm sorry for nearly attacking you without a warning. Both girls ended up being friends as they shared a hug between them, making Issei smile warmly at the scene. He then saw that it was 2 in the morning and he needed to be up by 5. Issei. As much as I want to stay up, I need a little bit of sleep. It's 2 in the morning and I have school, so do you, Tori. Tori realizes that Issei was right as she gave Issei one last hug and went back to her room while Issei went into his bed once more. White Queen took her place next to Issei, holding on to him as the pair then fell asleep once more, the weight of the earlier discussion being lifted off their shoulders. Chapter 4 School Day. At around 5 a.m., Issei's alarm went off, with him hitting snooze as he rubbed his eyes tiredly. He looked down to see White Queen sleeping with a very pure smile on her face, causing Issei to smile himself. But he knew that they needed to get up for school, as he gently whispered to try and wake her up. Issei. Sawa, it's time to get up. White Queen quietly groaned as she opened her eyes, looking at Issei with a tired gaze. White Queen. Darling, it's too early. Issei just chuckled and started to tickle her, making White Queen giggle, then laugh uncontrollably. She tried to get out of his grip but she couldn't and gave up. White Queen. Laughing. Okay, I'm up, please just stop it. Issei finally stopped as White Queen was panting a bit, not thrilled about being tickled, but more awake now. Issei. I had to wake you up somehow, but now we got classes today. White Queen realized and she knew that Issei had school, but didn't realize she was going with him until she saw the uniform for her. She immediately tried it on, and Issei had to admit that it made her more beautiful than ever. Issei was taken aback at how beautiful she looked, and White Queen only giggled. Before anything else, there was a knock on the door as Issei went to see Jalter and Jean in their uniforms, waiting on Issei. Jalter. Finally awake, lazy bones. Issei was not amused at that, speaking a bit deadpan. Issei. Really funny. Jean only giggled as she spoke in a playful tone. Jean. Oh come on, brother, you know it's always funny. Issei. To you all, not me. He just shakes his head as he realized White Queen was still behind him as he knew it was time to introduce her to the other two. Issei. Just wait here, you two, you're about to meet someone and I hope you all can get along. This made both Jalter and Jean a bit confused as Issei brought her out while Mickey saw them all there. Mickey. About time you woke up, Issei. I feared I'd have to put a shock collar on you that wakes you up. Issei. Mom. All the girls laughed a little bit at that and had devious ideas about waking Issei up as Jean was the first to notice White Queen. Before she could ask, Mickey spoke up. Mickey. I'm just kidding, son. Oh, and girls, I want you to meet someone. This is Sawa and she's Issei's girlfriend. Both Jean and Jalter looked at Mickey rather shocked before turning to White Queen as she spoke. White Queen. So you two are his other sisters, it's quite a pleasure to meet you too. Jalter was about to interrogate White Queen as Issei looked at all of them. Goru decided to come up and make his presence known as he spoke up. Goru. Now, I want you all to get along. And Issei whispering into his ear, please bring more girls home to date, you'll fulfill my dream. Mickey heard it and twisted Gorus's ear hard, causing the Hyoudou father to cry in pain. Goru. He screamed loud enough as everyone was now wide awake and everyone was scared of Mickey's wrath. Everyone left while Mickey was tending to Goru as they piled in Issei's car before he started driving off. Jalter was the first to break the silence as she spoke in a slightly shaken tone. Jalter. Geez, mom can really be terrifying at times. Jean. You think I don't want to make her mad at us? Tori. She can be sweet, but when she's mad. Everyone just shudders while White Queen was confused on why until Issei spoke up. Issei. Last time I made her mad, I don't even want to think about it. Jean, Jalter and Tori all shivered whenever Issei said that, and even they had felt bad whenever Issei got punished severely by their mom. White Queen could only imagine the image in her head and she had a faint smirk that was sadistic and she kept it hidden from Issei. They soon arrive at Katori's school and the principal had come to meet Katori, who was extremely nervous. Issei saw this and decided to talk to the principal himself. Principal. Can I help you, perv? Issei. Very funny, tell me why my little sister is getting harassed at your school. Katori was right next to Issei, fear evident in her eyes as the principal was having an amused grin, which dropped fast after seeing Issei's expression. Issei. You think it's funny that my little sister is harassed? And you blame me for an accusation that is completely false. Damn hypocrite. The principal was shocked that Issei called him out, but when he saw that Issei was done being nice, he immediately apologized and went inside to clear everything up. Katori hugged Issei tightly with a grateful smile, happy that it will be over soon. She then went inside with a brighter look as Issei went back in his car and started driving to Kuo Academy. Once parked, he got out with White Queen and his sisters and started walking inside. As they were walking, everyone looked at White Queen and were questioning who she was. Random Girl 1. Is she a new student? Random Girl 2. I don't know but she looks so stunning. Random Boy 1. Another goddess finally. Random Boy 2. I wonder if she's taken, I really want her to be devoured. That last comment made White Queen very uncomfortable, which Issei noticed. He put an arm around her waist, pulling her much closer in a protective manner, which luckily nobody caught wind of it. After heading to class, White Queen was told to wait outside while they got the class settled down. Teacher. Alright, sit down and shut the hell up, you all give me a headache, but we have a new student again, come in. Soon, White Queen entered and immediately every student, save for Issei, Jean and Jalter, were in awe at how stunning she was. The boys were drooling badly, thinking of every perverted thought that they could do to her, which made Issei seethe. But he just smirked knowing how White Queen is going to shut them all down. After introducing herself as Sawayama-uchi, the teacher then pointed to students for questions. Teacher. Please for the love of God, don't say any dumb shit boys. I already have Issei to deal with, so don't be real damn stupid. White Queen. Before you even ask, I'm already taken. The boys just cried fake tears, looking for the one who took their new goddess, only to see Issei smirking at them. They wanted to kill Issei, but were stunned silent when White Queen walked up to Issei and kissed him in front of everyone. The teacher was smirking and gave Issei 2 thumbs up, approving of that moment. His smirk was even wider when White Queen sat on Issei's lap with no hesitation, smirking at all of the boys that tried to have her. White Queen. Sorry boys, but he's much more of a man than any of you ever will be. She spoke that with a flirtatious tone while hugging Issei close on his lap. The teacher didn't care and only smirked as he went on his way for teaching class. Time skipped to lunch. Issei had taken White Queen to a quiet spot away from everyone, which also gave a bit of a view towards the old school building. Issei treated her to some of his lunch and soon were joined by his sisters Jean and Jalter. As the 4 of them talked, Jean looked up and saw an individual that was looking from the top window. She had crimson red hair, baby blue eyes, skin that shined like a diamond, and wore the uniform like everyone else. Jean saw that she was looking straight at Issei, then turned back into the school building. She wanted to tell Issei, but didn't know how to do so. Speaking of Issei, he saw that Jean had a look that wanted to tell him something, and he spoke up about it. Issei. Jean, is there something you wanted to tell me? Jean grew flustered as Issei called her out for a bit, which made what she wanted to say much harder. Jean. Well, I saw someone looking at you. Issei was a bit confused as he took a look at the old building behind him, not seeing anyone but also not calling his sister a liar. He turned back to look at Jean and decided to ask her. Issei. Did you see what they looked like? Jean. Well, they had long red hair. Issei. That's all I needed, and I know who it is, just from the hair it was Ria's Gremory. He looked behind him once more, musing to himself but enough for everyone to hear. Issei. But why was she looking at me, of all people? His sisters and girlfriend were unsure of what Ria's wanted to see him for, but for now they just ignored it and went back to their conversation. Scene change, old building. Inside the old building, on the top floor, there were 2 girls in a dimly lit room. The first was Ria's Gremory, and the other girl had long violet hair and a ponytail that was held by an orange bow, amethyst eyes, and an extremely flirty personality to boot. This other girl is Akeno Himejima, Ria's best friend. Ria's? Akeno, who were those people? The girl, now named Akeno, spoke in a slightly flirty tone. Akeno. Ara, one of them caught your eye? Ria's blushed quite a bit as she glared at Akeno. Ria's? No, I just wanted to know who they were. Akeno. Well, the sole guy is Issei Hyoudou, quite a looker, if I may admit. Ria's blushed furiously at Akeno before she continued. Akeno. The 2 that look similar are Jean and Jalter Dark, his little sisters, and the last one is Sawayama-uchi. Ria's nodded but looked at the 4 from the window without being seen. She then proceeded to defeat Akeno in chess. Akeno. Oh, darn. I tried to make it harder on you. Ria's. It was a good attempt, but not quite enough. Ria said that as she stripped down and hopped into the shower, letting the water cascade off her body as she had a thought cross her mind. Ria's. Who are you really, Issei Hyoudou Sawayama-uchi? Back with Issei and the girls. After classes had ended, Issei and the 3 girls all went to the locker rooms, where Issei changed out of the school gym uniform into the standard uniform after a quick shower. He soon went outside and heard the screams of the girls in the locker room. Immediately recognizing the screams, he knocked on the door to the girls' locker room, which was opened by Jean as she was a bit terrified. Jean. Those pervs, they're in here. Issei was extremely pissed off that the 2 perverts slipped into the girls' locker room and he felt the need to kick their asses. With consent from his sisters and girlfriend, he went inside where the girls were mad at him for walking in, but calmed down when they were told he had permission. Surprisingly, Momo Hanakai, Issei's closest childhood friend, was also in the locker room. She was described as a beautiful young lady with glacier white hair, turquoise eyes, a slender body, and was extremely shy around Issei. Once Momo saw Issei, her blush was shown for all the girls to see, and White Queen saw this as well. She thought that Momo had a huge crush on him, but decided to talk to her later. Approaching one of the lockers, he looked to his other sister Jolter as she stayed close to him. Issei. Are they in here? He saw several of the girls inside nod, including Momo, which only made Issei even more pissed off. Punching the locker door hard, it came undone as he saw both boys sitting in there with terrified expressions, including the one that tried to ask his sisters on a date. The two of them were so scared that they ended up pissing themselves, but Issei could care less. Issei. You two are dead. In that moment, throughout the entire school, the screams of the two perverts rang extremely loud, as everyone wondered who screamed like that, but paid no mind to it. In the old building, Akeno heard the screams as she had a lustful look on her face, her panties wet from the pervert screams. Akeno. Ara, I wonder who made me wet like this. She was full of lust and wondered if Issei was the one that made her like that. On the other side of town, there were two girls that were minding their own business, but their attention was drawn to the screams that they heard from across Kuo. Both girls shuddered at it, but they also wet themselves a little bit, wondering who made them feel that way. Back to Issei, he dusted his hands after destroying the two perverts and saw his sisters and girlfriend dressed in the normal uniforms, which they all followed Issei after he left the locker room. Momo saw it and her heart was beating rapidly, wanting to talk to Issei alone and hopefully confess to him. Chapter 5 Another new student, past revealed. Arriving at his car, Issei was taking not only White Queen home, but heading to the middle school to pick Katori up. Once he got parked and stepped out, he was met with a bawling Katori that just flung herself onto Issei, which made him almost lose his temper again. He tightly held onto Katori and gently stroked her hair, trying to calm his sister down. Issei. Katori. Katori just clung onto Issei and just cried hard. Soon, Issei began to hear laughing from the school, and it was 5 boys that not only picked on, but what Issei caught was the bruises that Katori so desperately wanted to hide. Issei got to Katori's level and spoke softly. Issei. Did those 5 kids do this to you? Issei may have seemed calm on the outside, but Drake felt the anger and rage about to explode from Issei. He just shivered and stayed quiet, realizing Issei was about to kill some people. The principal also came out and smirked at Katori crying, only for the 6 of them to stop laughing and a look of fear that replaced their smug looks. Issei was not having it and he was straight up going to kill those 6, the principal for allowing Katori's abuse to happen and the 5 boys for hurting his little sister. Soon, he made a call to his parents, explaining what happened. It's safe to say that the parents were beyond pissed and called for one of the best lawyers in all of Japan. Not only that, the superintendent herself came out and saw the scene, and boy was she pissed. S.I. Christian, why are you allowing this poor girl to be bullied? The principal was only stuttering as Issei spoke up about the case. Issei. This isn't the first time it happened. S.I. What do you mean by that? Issei. I'm saying it's been going on for a while and every time she's been harassed. Now the superintendent was furious, effectively firing the principal and expelling the 5 boys. Her methods are not to be trifled with and she didn't take shit from anyone. Katori held on to Issei, feeling relieved that her tormentors were finally taken care of. Issei saw how Katori clung to him and he smiled, reminiscing of how she held on to him anytime she got scared. The superintendent made her way to Issei and bowed to him, apologizing. S.I. I'm so sorry that your little sister was harassed here. I will not let this slide again. Issei. You don't need to apologize, you did your job and that's enough for me. The superintendent only smiled as she just nodded at Issei, turning around to walk inside. Before stepping inside, she turned around once more, showing a flash of blue in her eyes with her blue hair. She then walked inside, her mind thinking of one thing. S.I. So he's the red dragon, this will be interesting. Once Issei helped Katori in his car, he got in and as he started driving, Drake screamed in his mind, almost causing Issei to flinch and jerk his car. Drake. Holy buck, that woman is here. Issei. Drake, why the buck did you just scream in my head, and it better be good. Drake. Apologies partner, but that woman you just talked to is actually one of the strongest devils to live and the younger sister of the strongest queen, as Death Lucifuge. Issei was stunned, but he didn't show it externally as he didn't want to worry his sisters and girlfriend more. Issei. Can you tell me more once we're alone? Drake. I can do that, but right now just get home safely. Issei finished driving everyone home, and as soon as he entered his room, Drake put a soundproof barrier at the door and around the room as he began to speak about the woman from earlier. Issei. Alright Drake, you sounded scared when you told me about that woman. Who is she, really? Drake. Esdeath Lucifuge. She is the strongest ice user just after her sister, which is Lucifer's queen. Her use of ice is so insane that she takes a thrill in those that she kills. She even has tried to kill me and Albion several times, all of them nearly bringing both of us down. However, she had disappeared without a trace and had always held resentment to her family, except for the Queen of Lucifer. Having been isolated from everyone for so long, Esdeath has picked up some extremely sadistic tendencies, enjoying killing those that she deems weak. Issei just shuddered at the fact of how sadistic this Esdeath woman can be, as he wanted to know why she's so sadistic. However, before he could say anything, Drake lowered the barrier and a knock was on his door. Opening it, Issei saw White Queen standing in front of his room, holding a blanket as she also had a bit of a scared look. Issei. Sawa, what? Before Issei spoke, White Queen flung herself onto Issei, clutching his shirt tightly as tears began to fall from her face. He also felt her shaking as Issei just spoke quietly, not planning on scaring her anymore. Issei. Did you have a nightmare, Sawa? White Queen just nodded silently, not speaking up, but Issei was certain that she needed him now more than ever. Issei slowly walked her over to his bed, laying down and feeling the grip of White Queen becoming tighter than ever, as if she was afraid to let go. She then decided to speak up, letting Issei know what's wrong. White Queen. Issei, I'm scared. Issei held White Queen tighter and just whispered to her lightly. Issei. Sawa, are you scared of losing me? White Queen just nodded as Issei tilted her head to look in his eyes as he just smiled softly to his girlfriend. Issei. Sawa, look at me, I'm not going anywhere, I'm still going to be here with you every step of the way. White Queen just stared into his eyes, feeling Issei's gaze into her hetero red and blue orbs as she felt her worries and fears start to slowly wash away. She eventually just nuzzled herself into Issei's arms and started to fall asleep, this time more peaceful and calmer. Issei just smiled as Drake had spoken in his head. Drake. I'm honestly very happy that she came into your life when you needed it most. Issei. Me too, Drake, I honestly don't ever want to hurt her or leave her, she means everything to me and I don't care what anybody else is telling me. Drake. Showing true maturity like a dragon, I'm proud of you, but I'd be careful, I have a feeling that we may have more spirits appear soon. Issei. Very well, I just hope that they won't be hostile, but approachable. But that final thought, Issei fell asleep holding White Queen close to him, letting his dreams of his girlfriend take over. Time skip next day. Now that school was going on again, Issei saw an extra few seats behind him and immediately saw that the teacher ordered more desks as a precaution for any new students. After taking their seats, White Queen just sat behind Issei, smiling gently and very happy. Unfortunately, that would only last momentarily as the teacher walked in, just pinching the bridge of his nose. Teacher, I swear, who the buck is in charge of these damn transfers? One of the students spoke up, obviously displeased that he had to put up with this teacher again. Student. Why are you always my teacher? Teacher. Because you never move up a bucking grade, now shut the hell up, we have yet another transfer student. I swear if you little shits aren't nice to her, I'll keep driving my motorcycle in here anyways, come inside. The new transfer student walked in and everyone was surprised that it was another girl. She had long black hair, one red eye as the other one was covered up, a curvy body, and had a soft smile that shot every boy in the heart, save for Issei. White Queen on the other hand just dropped her smile and immediately recognized who it was. Despite trying to keep it to herself, Issei heard it and wanted to find out the name of the girl. White Queen. Nightmare. Teacher. Everyone, this is Kurumi Takasaki, she's new here, so treat her with respect, and boys, don't make me have Issei castrate all of you. Every boy flinched and Issei soon had a sadistic grin as he flashed the several knives he had on his leather jacket, making every boy lose color as Kurumi studied Issei for a moment, thinking if he was the one that made her feel a certain way a few nights ago. However, she pushed that in the back of her mind as she took the seat to the left of Issei, taking a few moments to study the boy while White Queen quietly seethed at Kurumi doing so. Issei was a little uncomfortable with Kurumi basically staring at him and tried his hardest to pay attention. Time skip lunchtime. After classes that were uncomfortable for Issei, he was now with his sisters and girlfriend as he recalled the discomfort from Kurumi. Issei. I swear, that girl made me seriously uncomfortable, I feel like she was trying to get something out of me. Jean. I get what you mean, I feel like she was glaring at me just for looking at you. Jolter. Same with me, I'm getting crazy hitch vibes from her. White Queen was quiet, which Issei noticed and hugged her from behind, hoping to help ease her. Issei. Sawa, is everything okay? White Queen was visibly shaking now, making Issei worried, and he tightened the hold on her, hoping to stop the shaking. Issei. You mentioned her as Nightmare, do you want to talk about it? White Queen was trying her hardest to keep her composure, and if it wasn't for Issei she'd be lashing out. After a few deep breaths, she began to speak up. White Queen. That girl, Kurumi, is also a spirit, named Nightmare. Issei was stunned silent as he kept a tight hold on his girlfriend, panicking internally on how he'll be able to seal Kurumi without getting himself killed. White Queen felt Issei panicking a little bit and held onto his arms comfortably, reassuring him that she's here and won't let anyone hurt him. After that, she continued. White Queen. But that isn't all, she used to be my best friend from years ago before we became spirits. Issei. Before you became spirits. White Queen. Yes, Kurumi and I were like sisters, inseparable from everyone until one day, she. Issei felt that White Queen was about to come apart as he turned her around and shifted her comfortably, holding her tightly and whispering soft lullabies into her ear. She started to calm down as her grip on his shirt did not loosen, but she pressed on. White Queen. Kurumi just started bullying people for no reason. I was one of the unfortunate people, her own best friend. Issei. SHH, it's okay, you don't need to continue. White Queen was starting to have tears fall, and after hearing Issei's voice, she couldn't take it anymore and began to cry in his arms, the toll of seeing Kurumi again crashing down on her. Issei kept a very firm, yet comforting hold on his girlfriend, letting her cry in his arms as he did everything in his power to calm her down. After a few moments, the crying stopped as Issei wiped the remaining tears and looked at White Queen. Issei. Sawa, look at me. White Queen just looked into the eyes of her lover, seeing the tenderness and love that was coming from them as he spoke. Issei. You don't have to worry anymore, I'm here with you now, my sisters are here with you, our parents are with you, you don't have to suffer alone anymore, sweetheart. White Queen looked at Issei attentively, slowly her sadness started to slip away and instead a smile formed on her face. She then kissed Issei on the lips, feeling the love and warmth from him as White Queen was now calmed down. White Queen. Thank you, darling. Issei just hugged White Queen close to him as lunch had soon come to an end, causing them, along with Jean and Jolter, to return to class. Unknown to them, someone had observed the whole interaction. It was the new transfer girl, now confirmed spirit, Kurumi Takasaki. Unlike the usual sadistic attitude, there were tears that were threatening to fall as she leaned on the railing. Kurumi. I never wanted to hurt you, Sawa. Ara having doubts, me. Kurumi turned to see a clone of herself in her astral dress, but unlike her, this was the true Kurumi, not a clone. Kurumi. You know what must be done, whatever she and I went through means nothing to me. Kurumi just nodded wordlessly as Kurumi observed Issei momentarily, a surprise faint blush appearing on her face. She wondered if that was who made her wet herself a little bit but pushed that thought back and disappeared, though not without a final thought. Kurumi. Issei Hyoudou, Huffy for you will soon be mine. Scene change, abandoned church. As Issei and the others were in school, 3 fallen angels were just sitting around the church, doing their own things. One of them was a short girl with blonde hair, blue eyes, wore what appeared to be a maid outfit with large frills and a black bow in her hair. This was Middled. Another girl had jet black hair that flowed down her back, amethyst eyes, wore an extremely revealing black dominatrix outfit and a body that other girls would kill for. This girl was Rainer. The last girl had long navy blue hair, yellow eyes, wore a maroon business coat and skirt with the top open, and her body is one to die for by many. This was Kalwerner. Right now, all 3 girls were doing their own things. Middled was reading a manga, Kalwerner was doing her nails, and Rainer was messing around with her phone. Soon, a hologram appeared, catching all of their attention. From it was a man that appeared to be in his late 40s, black hair with gold bangs, and a trench coat that was halfway exposing his chest. This was their leader, Azazel. Azazel. Girls, I have some updated information. They all paid close attention as the hologram changed from Azazel to Issei, catching both Rainer and Kalwerner, with a blush starting to grow from them. Middle saw it but said nothing as she observed Issei a bit closely. Azazel. I have word from Shemazai that this is the Red Dragon Emperor, but I am not sure this is where you girls come in. I want you all to find and get to know him, however you see fit, but do be careful, we don't know if he'll lash out, but what we do know is that he is extremely protective of his sisters. This caught all of them off guard as they wondered who his sisters were, but Azazel continued. Azazel. Middled, I'm sending you to the middle school, and I know one of his sisters goes there. Rainer and Kalwerner, I'm leaving you two to Kuo Academy. Be friends with his other sisters and try to get him to open up to you too. But that said, the hologram of Azazel disappeared as all 3 fallen angels looked at each other and agreed on one thing. Do not attempt to anger Issei Hyoudou under any circumstances whatsoever. Chapter 6 Confession, Date and New Spirit. Scene change, back at school. As Issei was roaming the halls with his sisters and girlfriend, another girl was watching them walk by, a little jealous. It was Momo, and she had wanted to tell Issei how she felt, but was pressured into the rumors of him being a pervert, which was later shot down after Issei nearly killed the two actual perverts. Right now she was walking into the student council room, where she's met by both Sona and Tsubaki. Momo. Kaichu. Sona. Easy, Momo. We're just here to have a simple talk, nothing more. Momo sat on the chair in front of Sona, wondering what she was going to say, but did see Sona smirk a little bit and that made her slightly uncomfortable. Sona. I'm aware that you have a crush on a certain someone here. Momo started to blush nervously, not sure if Sona had found out already or not, but what she said next sealed it. Sona. I already know it's Issei, and so does Tsubaki. Poor Momo was incredibly red in the face, hiding it in her hands, as the embarrassment of her crush being found out made the white-haired girl even more nervous. Sona and Tsubaki saw this and decided not to tease further, as it would only add to the embarrassment. Sona. You and I both know that he is taken, but I have spoken to his girlfriend Sawa. And what she told me is a surprise. Earlier that day. White Queen was in the student council office, already told that she was not in trouble. She made herself comfortable in the chair in front of Sona's desk, but her comfort was being tested by a boy that had ash blonde hair, grey eyes, and exuded an aura of arrogance. It was none other than Saji Genshiro, the newest member of the student council. He was also staring at White Queen, and that made her uncomfortable to no end. Sona. Thank you for coming down here, Sawa. White Queen. Of course, but can you tell the boy over there not to stare? It's making me seriously uncomfortable and worried. Sona understood what she meant and spoke with a no-nonsense tone to Saji. Sona. Saji, don't make our guest uncomfortable. That's an order. Saji immediately stopped and looked down, stunned silent on being caught, but what White Queen said next just made him even dumber. White Queen. Besides, I'm certain my man wouldn't appreciate you looking at me like that. That shocked not only Sona, but Tsubaki as well, which made the topic of what Sona wanted to tell White Queen about. Sona. Speaking of, I'm aware it's Issei, if I'm not mistaken. White Queen. You're correct, and I'm certain that I'm not just here for idle talk, it's about him, isn't it? Sona. As much as I don't want to admit, it is. Sona then went on to explain how one of the girls in the student council had fallen for Issei, that girl being Momo. White Queen wanted to know more, and Sona had said she was the longtime childhood friend of Issei, which surprised White Queen greatly. She never knew that Momo had known Issei for such a long time. This also brought her up to ask a major question. White Queen. You're asking me if I am willing to share Issei with her? Sona. It is, and I understand whatever answer you say. But just know that Momo has had feelings for Issei for quite some time, and I don't want to see her hurt because of this. White Queen thought about it pretty deeply. On one hand, it would be painful to share Issei with someone else, but on the other hand, it would give her a chance to know Momo better and possibly be someone she can call a sister. She then made up her mind and had a small smile, looking Sona in the eyes. White Queen. I have no problem with that, however there's something she must know. I'm the first girl, but other than that I don't mind sharing him with Momo. Sona was genuinely surprised that White Queen would agree, seeing at how clingy she would be of Issei from time to time, but showed a smile nonetheless. Sona. I will let her know of your answer. Flashback end. Momo couldn't believe that White Queen would agree to share Issei, and it made her heart leap in pure elation. She wanted nothing more than to so badly confess to Issei, but was unsure of how to tell him. Sona saw this and spoke up about what Momo should do. Sona. Your best option is to tell him straight. Momo was silent and blushing hard from Sona's suggestion, but an idea did come to her mind and she left for where only she knows. Sona saw this and had a smile to herself as one last thought went in her mind. Sona. Take care of her, Issei. Scene change with Issei. Issei was eating with White Queen, as the couple were eating in each other's comforting presence, she spoke up. White Queen. Hey Issei. Issei. What is it, Sawa? White Queen hesitated for a moment, then decided to speak up. White Queen. Have you ever thought of being shared with other girls? That question forced Issei to spit out his drink away from White Queen, almost choking as he was not expecting that question. He then turned to White Queen and had to know why it was brought up. Issei. What? Where did that idea come from? White Queen. It's been on my mind pretty heavily today, as I learned that someone else has feelings for you, and not just me. That made Issei a bit surprised, as he didn't think anyone else would want to have feelings for him. He had to think for a moment before he drew blanks, but White Queen spoke up. White Queen. If I'm not mistaken, they're waiting for you on the roof. Don't keep them waiting too long, darling. The last bit came as flirty to Issei, as he just chuckled and kissed White Queen briefly before heading up to the roof to talk to whoever had feelings for him. Scene change, rooftop. Once Issei made it to the rooftop, he looked around and didn't see anyone there. He then walked to the railing and looked over the horizon, patiently waiting for whoever had feelings for him to show up. It was then that he heard a voice, and it was the last one he had expected. Issei. Issei then turned around and was stunned to see who it was. His longtime childhood friend, Momo. Issei. Momo. The two looked at each other, not sure on what to even say or do. Issei then stepped forward, still shocked as he closed the distance between himself and Momo. As soon as Issei was within a foot of her, Momo flung herself onto Issei, the emotions running high between the two. Issei stumbled a bit as Momo clung onto him, but he remained on his feet and soon returned the hug, a long-awaited reunion that was years coming. As soon as the pair separated for a brief moment, Momo couldn't hold herself back and slammed her lips against Issei's, causing the brunette to go wide-eyed, but soon relaxed into the kiss and returned it. Once they separated, Momo just panted the words out as she was breathless from the intense kiss. Momo. Issei, I couldn't hold it in anymore, I love you. Issei was stunned as he heard his childhood friend confess to him, but before he could even say another word, Momo continued on. Momo. I already know you have a girlfriend, but she doesn't mind sharing. Now Issei figured out why White Queen asked that question, and he connected the dots. Momo was always in love with him, and he wasn't aware of her feelings beforehand. Since he knows that now, he planted his lips on Momo's, accepting her feelings, and giving her a little extra tease by squeezing her butt playfully. Momo gasped in the kiss, her cheeks burning from Issei's teasing, but she really didn't mind it from him. After breakfast the kiss, she playfully punched Issei in the arm. Momo. Jerk. Issei only laughed as he spoke through his laughs. Issei. Sorry, couldn't help it. Momo shook her head in amusement, but she still had the smile that made Issei happy, finally able to confess and have her feelings accepted by Issei. From a distance, 4 people watched on, one with a smile. White Queen. I'm glad you can accept her feelings, darling, I'm excited to meet her personally. Riaz. He just accepted her, I wonder. Bakeno Kurumi. Ara. Issei felt a sudden chill in his spine for some reason, but paid little attention to it as he held Momo in his arms, while she just smiled and felt the comfort of her boyfriend's arms. Issei then had a text from White Queen, and he smiled after seeing that she wanted a date today. Soon, the bell for lunch had rang, and the day went on like normal. Time skip, time of date. In Kuo Park, Issei waited for White Queen to appear as he wore some casual clothes that he felt were comfortable, but also fit him perfectly. As he patiently waited for his girl to show up, he was having a mental conversation with Dreg. Issei. I'm honestly scared of how this date will go, but… Dreg. I understand your worries. You're afraid something will go wrong, just like the last date you had with the fallen angel. Issei. Yeah. Dreg. Fear not, partner. Not only should this date go well, but I'm happy that you have another girl who truly loves you. I'm proud of you, my friend. Issei just smiled wholeheartedly, knowing that Dreg will always have his back. Soon, he heard his name called out, and once he saw White Queen, he was quite slack-jawed at how beautiful she was dressed. White Queen just giggled and spoke in a flirty teasing tone to him. White Queen. Darling, don't stare too much. Issei blushed heavily after that and tried to recompose himself. Issei. Sorry, it's just you're so beautiful, Sawa. It was now her turn to blush as White Queen just looked down a bit, but before she could say a word, Issei took her hand and led her to various places, starting with the aquarium. In the short time he was dating her, Issei knew that White Queen always had a soft spot for the ocean, and he knew that she loved the animals that lived there. It also reminded him that he should save up some money to take her scuba diving, which should really melt her heart. After the aquarium, Issei and White Queen went for some food, which Issei paid for, albeit it was quite expensive. He didn't care, as long as his girlfriend was happy. After the long date, Issei and White Queen were both genuinely happy, as she clung onto him like a magnet. Issei could not be any happier that he has not only one of the most beautiful girls he's ever seen, but he's able to make her this happy. White Queen. I had so much fun, darling, thank you. Issei. Of course, Sawa, if anything, I must thank you for making me the happiest I've been in a long time. White Queen smiled warmly and was about to kiss Issei, but unfortunately luck had other plans as the area around them began to shake violently. Both of them knew exactly what it was, but before either of them could move, a powerful blast sent both of them hurtling back. Issei held onto White Queen to soften her impact on the ground, risking his own body to ensure she doesn't get hurt. Once the shaking stopped, Issei looked to his girlfriend. Issei. You okay, Sawa? White Queen. I'm alright, but… The pair stood up and once the smoke cleared up, Issei could make out a person that was close to a throne. This person was a girl that was close to his age, had violet hair and eyes, wore a mainly purple dress, and her expression was something very serious, as her eyes also held a hidden sadness behind it. White Queen was surprised as she quietly whispered, but Issei knew who or what she was. White Queen. Another spirit. Soon, the girl looked at Issei and White Queen as she spoke in a bit of a threatening manner. Are you here to kill me? That threw Issei and White Queen off, but before either of them could speak, the girl was right in front of Issei, her blade pressed against his neck as she spoke again. If you're here to kill me, I'll end you right here. Before she had a chance, White Queen donned her astral dress and kicked the unknown spirit away, glaring right at her. White Queen. Touch my darling again, and I will kill you. Before Issei had a chance to speak up, gunfire rang out as Issei almost got hit, but ended up getting grazed by a few bullets. White Queen and the unknown girl were unharmed, but the moment White Queen saw Issei get grazed, she was pissed off and did not hesitate to charge at the army coming her way. This army was a bunch of girls that were dressed in very questionable armor, but Issei did recognize one of them. Origami Tabiichi, the super genius. Issei, despite being hurt, told Drake mentally that he needed a distraction to get not only White Queen, but also the unknown girl away from here. Drake. Leave it to me, partner. Drake soon took control and unleashed Issei's armor and dashed at almost inhuman speed, not only holding White Queen back, but also getting the unknown spirit away from the site, soon entering an abandoned building. White Queen was furious about it, but before she could say anything, the armor disappeared to reveal Issei, and seeing him hurt made White Queen worried. The unknown spirit saw how White Queen interacted with Issei, and a pang of longing was in her heart, but before she could leave, Issei called out to her. Issei. Wait. The girl turned around and met his eyes, which were as comforting as he could, but the girl didn't know that. Issei. I'm sorry for getting you away like that, but I didn't want to see you hurt. The girl was a bit conflicted as she looked at Issei and was wanting to know the truth, but before she could, White Queen spoke up. White Queen. What brings you here, princess? The girl, known as Princess, looked at White Queen and spoke in a tone that was guarded, but not hostile. Princess. I don't know why I was brought here, but… White Queen. You felt a pull from someone. Princess only nodded, and as she looked at Issei, she felt her heart being pulled very strongly to him. White Queen had felt what Princess was, and the pull to Issei confirmed it. She didn't know what it could be, but she had an idea and spoke to Issei. White Queen. Darling, I think this girl is feeling a pull toward you. Issei was unsure of what to say, but he felt the pull and realized something else. He had to seal her before anyone else could get to her. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.